Oh, only one yay. You can do better than that. There we go. So, hello. I am Julian. I've removed a load of stuff from my talk because my next slides are all I live in Bath, not London. Because whenever you go abroad, everyone's like, oh, which bit of London do you live in? And I'm like, Bath or Bristol. And anyway, so you don't need to know that. So I'm Julian. I've just got a new job. I work at Flagrant. We're a consultancy. So if you need us to make your Rails apps, your React apps, and all the other things, then you should hire us. But then in our stand-up today, my boss was like, no, I've got an elevator pitch, and then he couldn't remember it. So I think that will do. But hire us. We're awesome. We're based out of the US. And we've got a pretty nifty shade of pink. I like that. So, I like robots. I've given a few robotic talks before. This person is my hero, Simone Gertz. She makes shitty robots. Pardon my French, but those are her words, not mine. And this is one of my favorite robots that she ever made. So I saw that and I was like, yes, what can I do that is just as good as that? And so I've already been, as Carl and a few other people have been here before, you know, when we all leave, we start talking about automation and how we've automated our houses, and then Miles is kicking us out, he's like, no, you have to leave. And we keep talking about automation, and luckily my wife is here, so she knows how our house is automated, and it's amazing. But I was thinking, what else can I automate? Like, what do I like? And I was thinking, I like drinking. Specifically, I like drinking cocktails. And so if any of you ever come to Bath, you should all come with me to the Hideout. So unlike when I gave this in Nashville and everyone's like, what is Bath? Like, at least you all know where it is. So this is the great bar in Bath. You should come. I actually have a locker where we can go get whiskeys, and they're mine. We don't have to pay for them because I pay for them. But the thing is, they make really good cocktails. It's like, I really love them to make cocktails at my house. But as much as I ask them, they tell me, no, they're not coming home with me to make me cocktails. So I was thinking, okay, what do I need? I need robots. So I started thinking, I was like, how can I make cocktails with robots? And I was like, I have an excess of Raspberry Pis. You know, like Amazon Save and Subscribe, you can add it for random things. I think these must be on it because we have them everywhere. Like, they even automate our lights and our cocktail robots and just everything. And I've got like 3 of them here, and I'm not even using half of them, so I've just got that many. So I was like, yes, let's use Raspberry Pis to make a cocktail robot. But I wanted to give a talk in Rubyconf in Nashville. So what I didn't explain to them so much, but I'm telling you now, unfortunately it's recorded, is I was like, okay, how can I make this talk sound good for a conference? So I was like, let's use Kubernetes. That sounds like a thing that people want to learn about. Okay, so, and then it's like, obviously going to use Ruby, and then I could see this image of Matt, even though he doesn't drink, he's like, that's such a good idea, you should definitely talk about cocktails and robots and Kubernetes and Ruby, that's amazing. And yeah, that's what got me to Nashville, so thank you very much to them. Anyway, so, to recap, for my talk, we have 3 technologies, some of which you may not, some may not, some of them you may know, some of you may not. Raspberry Pis, Kubernetes, and Ruby. 3 things in a talk, didn't sound so good. Like, what could we add that would make the people that accepted my talk think, yes, this is something we want to hear? Kafka. And so, doing some research for my talk, I found this wonderful talk from RailsConf in 2018. And I think it was the line of the title. So you've got yourself a Kafka. Like, now what do you do? And I watched this, and this is an amazing talk. You should also all go and watch it. And I felt like in that position, I was like, yeah, I've got Kafka in my cocktail robot, and I don't know how to Kafka. So please tell me how. So again, to triply recap, we've got cocktail robots. We've got Kafka. Does it make it Kafka-esque? I don't know. Spent too many hours researching this as opposed to working on my talk, but there we go. So, back to the other problem, Kubernetes. So, I wanted to run Kubernetes on Raspberry Pis, and it does compile on there, but it's kind of big and bulky. But this company Rancher has made something called K3S, which is like Kubernetes, but 5 less numbers. Well done. And so it's super, super simple. And I love this in the description. If you can read it, it's like, it takes maybe 30 seconds. Like, they obviously didn't benchmark IPS like in the previous talk, like, but it's super, super simple to run on. Sorry, I keep standing on the cable. It's really, really lightweight, and we'll see how to install it and run it, and it's super, super awesome. Okay, so I found in Google, I found this blog post by a chap called Alex Ellis, and he wrote, "Will it cluster Kubernetes on your Raspberry Pi?" So I followed this. This is a really good tutorial. So if you just Google Alex Ellis K3S, he has some amazing tutorials and things all about it. So for those of you that don't know what a Raspberry Pi is, it is a general purpose computer running like an ARM something or other with HDMI, SD card slot, tons of memory, and general I/O ports, so you can communicate with external devices. And these days, they all run power over Ethernet. So when you will come see my stuff after my talk, that's what we're doing, because why not add more technology? It makes everything work simpler, as we all know. So in order to build my cocktail robot, we need to take the drinks. As you can see, we have a nice variety of drinks from their respective containers and put them in a glass and make a cocktail. So what we use for that are what are called peristaltic pumps. So you may recognize these from your Nespresso machine. So the way they work is the inside of, so you have a tube that goes through, and then the pump bit basically just massages the pipe. That kind of causes a vacuum, so then it ends up sucking a liquid in and pumping out the other end, which means your liquid is never in contact with the motor, which makes it nice and clean. And they use these not only for Nespressos and cocktail robots, but also in dialysis machines, so you know they're legit. So they're pretty cool. And in order to turn them on and off, you use what's called a relay. Relays are super simple. So the bit on the far right, where it's like ground in one, blah, 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 that's where you'd connect it to your Raspberry Pi. That's where you use your nice simple DC voltage, you know, like between 3 to 5 volts. The blue end is the danger zone. Those are the fans of Archer. That's where you put your actual AC voltage, what can kill you, so do not touch that end. But if anyone would like one, I have one to give away at the end. But if you kill yourself, it's not my fault. So do be careful. Okay, so back to Kubernetes. So K3S has got this really simple tool called K3sup, as I think it's pronounced. So from your Mac or other laptops available, you can just run install, and you pass it the name of your server and the username of your Raspberry Pi, and it will install all of the stuff. That will make that the lead server in your cluster. Then when you want to add multiple nodes to your cluster, you can just tell them to join with the leader IP, and that's about it. Like, I don't know if any of you have ever set up Kubernetes clusters before on like Google or Amazon or wherever, but like if you're just doing this in the house and you've got a few Raspberry Pis lying around, this is super, super simple. Pretty cool. You all know Rails, I assume, so no need to talk about that. So in order to go from my Rails app, which we'll see in a minute, where we choose what cocktails we want, obviously going to use Kafka, and then go to our backend server that's running on the cocktail robot, we need to be able to interact with Kafka using Rails. And so unfortunately, I could only find 2 gems, and each one does one thing. And I love the Unix principle of doing one thing, but it turns out I had to use Racecar to consume Kafka messages and Delivery Boy to send them. And I don't quite know why. I mean, maybe I misunderstood it, but like, you'd have thought that there'd be one thing to do both of them. It seems like the same thing, but just backwards. So I had to implement both of these in my application. But I learned about both of these from that talk mentioned earlier on, so go watch that one. It's really good if you want to learn about Kafka. And in kind of like developing this, I was thinking this isn't complicated enough. Like, I need a state machine. State machines are fun because you don't want the cocktail robot telling you, hey, I finished making your drink before you've even ordered it, you know, because you don't want to get all of this stuff out of sync. So I don't know if this is the cool gem to use for state machines, but actually it works pretty well for this. Pardon? Yeah, you don't want someone like telling you that, hey, you've not paid, and just as you're about to pay or whatever, you know, you knows it. Okay, so what else have we got? Right, okay, so the fun bit. You'll go to a cocktail bar or just any bar and you order a drink and they make it. Like 3 steps, 2 steps. Turns out that when you're actually trying to design a robot, it gets a bit more complicated, if you're me, at least. So the way I did it is we have a UI that sends a drink request to a bar manager. Like, I was thinking like the olden days, you know, like Java with like, you know, you have all these middle things in between. I thought that was pretty cool. So a bar manager needs to find a mixologist because, you know, I only have one cocktail robot here, but this scales massively. And so, the bar manager finds a mixologist that's available at that current time to make a drink. Then the bar manager updates the UI to say, your drink has been assigned. It's not been made, but I found someone that can make it for you. And then the mixologist adds it to its own queue. This is what happens when you don't use Kafka. The mixologist adds it to its own queue and tells the UI, it's queued, it's good. I know I'm going to make it. It's coming soon. Don't worry. Then they make the drink, and then they tell the UI that it's finished. And I'm like, okay, phew, that's done. That's super simples, right? Yeah, that makes sense. That's what you'd all do? Yeah, I think so. Okay, as you know, so a cocktail, 5 ingredients: tequila, Cointreau, lime juice, ice, kosher salt. Okay, so we could either look at cocktails or we could just look at Kubernetes for like 1 minute, if you pleasure. So I set up Kubernetes on one of my Raspberry Pis. I added the Kubernetes dashboard, and it's meant to be looked at on localhost, which sucks because, like, who runs a Kubernetes cluster on the machine? You run it elsewhere. And so I was greeted with this: your connection is not private. So I clicked advanced, thinking I can just click continue. It's like, it's okay, Google, I've got it. I know this is an insecure website. So if you ever get this problem, there is no way around this. There's no button to click continue. However, can you see this there? This is unsafe. Did not know that. If you type, this is unsafe, boom, yeah. We can now get into our Kubernetes cluster. Like, how many hours of Googling did that take me? Anyway, so we add our security token, don't save it on password, just so you believe me. Boom, there is a cluster running on one of my Raspberry Pis. Unfortunately, I couldn't remember how any of this works, so my demo isn't running on Kubernetes because why would it? That was such a stupid idea. But I have 2 nodes here. I've got a 3rd Raspberry Pi, so if you want to see how to add a 3rd node to a Raspberry Pi, we can totally go do that. But it's great. You can see that it's not doing anything. It's super happy. It has loads of free memory and all sorts of things. You can run deployments and pods, and so you basically got, you know, your what's the word? Big grown-up work thing. Enterprise, that's it. Enterprise grade. Kubernetes running on a Raspberry Pi. And we've got routing, so you can have domains and all sorts of things, and you can hook it up to Docker or other stuff. So this is all super simples and super cools. And as I said, just running. If you just want one server, that. If you want multiple ones, that's really, really cool. Anywho, what you're all thinking is drinks. Yes? No? Or we can just end it now. Okay. By the way, your talk was amazing and really inspiring. My talk is useless, so I'm glad we got the two. That was great. Okay, so I learned so many lessons in re-giving this talk. The main one is documentation, because I don't know how any of my code works. And I only gave this talk in November, and somehow I thought it was a good idea to have a Rails UI that talks to the backend via Kafka and then has these two messaging systems in between, and trying to test it. Oh, also, don't go away for a client visit the week before you give a talk, because trying to fix this over the weekend, I don't know how the UI and the backend talk to each other, so they don't. So in my talk that I give in Nashville, it does work for a minute or two, so you can see that if you want to see a real one. But otherwise, we're just going to wing it on the terminal, which is the best way. So the idea of this is you have a nice UI, and you can order these drinks. So we could order a Moscow Mule. No, we don't want information. No. There you go. And you'll see they get added to the queue. And this is what I was saying about the different states. They would change depending on when they're being made. And then the idea is that while they're still being queued, you could delete them off the queue. Obviously, you can see I've made $1,500 so far with my cocktail robot, because these are all legit metrics. And yeah, this is really, really cool. But unfortunately, it was only talking one way. So I remembered how to set up Delivery Boy, but not the other gem, and just could not work out how to do it. So I think all this code is on GitHub. If it's not, I'll put it up, and then we can work on it for another no, we're not Great Western Ruby, are we? We're Southwest Ruby. We can work on it for another Southwest Ruby and actually get like an iPad and all sorts of loveliness. But more than happy to actually bore you with all the in-depth in the code if you want at another time. But anyway, so if we have here, we have my terminal. And so this is basically the end part where after it's gone through all the bar managers and mixologists, and it's found all the different robots and stuff that are available. Oh, that is my favorite bit, which is, where is it? Yes, you know what I'm saying. So it's you can have multiples of these, and it will work out which one's free. I didn't know how to do that, especially quickly for a talk, but return true. Like TDD, this works. I only have one. That's like my favorite thing in the world. Anyway, so once it's done all of that, it gets to the pull method. So the way that works is it turns on the pump, sleeps for a duration. So the duration is how long you want, how much liquid you want. So all of these pumps do a certain amount of liquids, depending on viscosity and temperature and all the other things, but they do a certain amount of liquid per minute. So you divide that by how much you want to pour, you sleep for that duration, and then you turn the pump off, and then it makes the drink. And so actually in my original version, I was thinking, cool, let's make a gin and tonic. We can pour those both at the same time. I use threads. Threads are easy. And I was like, in that case, they would be, because there's only two things. It doesn't matter which order they happen, they'll finish. Oops. But because there are multiple items on the queue waiting, as soon as it's finished pouring gin, how do I tell it to not pick up another job to say, hey, you can now pour Cointreau? And I was like, no, threads are not easy. Don't do that. So the way it works is currently it just pours the drink individually, one at a time. So it takes a bit longer, but you know, it's thread safe. So, so we have a choice. And this like puts debugging, right? Can you see that? I'll make it a bit bigger. So shall we try to make a gin and tonic, a Moscow Mule, or, oh yeah, we couldn't make a neat whiskey because one of the pumps broke on the way here. What was the other drink we had? Oh, it's just the two, wasn't it? Gin and tonic or a Moscow Mule? Okay, the mule, it's half uncommented too, so that works well. Oh yeah, so see where I've got like 15, so that's the pin on the Raspberry Pi. The 5 is 5 seconds. That was because also I didn't know which end of the pumps and which one sends out liquids. So we had to test that earlier. So let's just remove that. So my theory is, there is a constant somewhere back in the code that kind of has an offset for how long the pumps take to do stuff. So then you can actually add in seconds, which ends up being milliliters. So hopefully this should be a 50 ml and a 100 ml pour. So the 50 ml is the vodka, the 100 ml is the ginger beer. So if we save that, check we're in the right place. Yep, run that. Wait a couple of seconds. Oh, it's working! It's doing something. So that's making vodka. Like, neat addition to the front, but we left that at home. So this is the only downside with cocktail robots. You can't talk to them while they're making it, because otherwise, like, the bartenders ask you how you're doing and whatnot. Here comes the ginger beer. So I don't know if any of you know Akira that organizes Ruby Kaigi. When he saw this, he's like, I want my cocktail shaken. Can you do that? So that might be the next edition. It also doesn't do ice. I did think about having a hopper that drops it down, and I'm like, Julian, it's like 3 days before the conference. You need to go and give a talk. Let's hope that stops. Yes, it does. Would anyone like to try it?
Oh, yeah. Looks like tea.
Yes, it's for your breakfast.
Yep. No lie.
Oh, so Simone actually has a robot that cuts limes, uses motor things, and it was on the Stephen Colbert show, and I wasn't allowed. It's too dangerous.
Blades.
Yes. Yes, that's it. I cobbled together some crazy contraption that barely does what it's meant to do, and you all let me talk about it, so thank you.